Assalamu alaikum. We are here back with the No Drama Discipline, chapter 4. So chapter 4, they're going a little bit more into their technique. So no drama, connection in action. They re-emphasize the idea of connecting and always beginning with connection. So they give an example of Tina and her son and how he they thought that he was in the bathroom, but then they came to find out that he was actually in the living room using their iPad, and how they dealt with it. And one of the things that she did first is to sit down and say, "Hey buddy, what's going on here?" So connecting. They talk about this idea of response flexibility. What does that mean? Response flexibility is this idea that we don't want to parent with automatic reactive parenting. We don't want to be on autopilot. What we want to do instead is we want to be responsive to the current situation, the current context, and the current child. If you have multiple children, every child will be different. We don't want to think about, oh, well, my friend did that. And so, yes, we can, look at each other's ideas and perhaps, try different strategies. However, we want to look at my situation, what's warranted in this situation right now. So, there's the idea of mindfulness, which he doesn't say mindfulness, but response flexibility means just that it sounds. Being flexible about our response to a situation. It means pausing to think and to choose the best course of action. And it's this idea that, you take a pause and you look at all your possible options. You have A, B, C, D as possible responses. So you want to think about, in this situation, how do I want to respond? But not just knee-jerk reaction. Every time A happens, it's followed with X. Okay, they talk about 3 connection principles. The first connection principle is this idea of turn down the shark music, which is just this idea that, in the back of our minds, he has a nice example, which is like, they show a beach scene and they first put on really nice calm music, and then they show to an audience, and the audience is nice and calm and relaxed, and then they show the same scene. All the images are the same, but in the background, instead, now the music is the Jaws, the fear-based shark is coming sounds, right? Now what's going to happen to your body? It's going to be like, oh my god, there's a shark coming. Even though it's a beautiful ocean, nothing has changed, all of a sudden all you're thinking, there's a shark coming. So the idea is that a lot of times we parent from a fear-based point of view. I'm worried, oh my goodness, my daughter, she is not sharing, she's gonna be a narcissist all her life, stuff like that. Now that might be me as a therapist, my fear-based parent, my fear-based thoughts, your fear-based thought might be slightly different, but you get my point. So a lot of times we are reacting from fear. So turn off the shark music. If you notice that the shark music is in your head, meaning you notice that there's fear-based thinking in your mind, you need to stop, shut that fear-based off, return to calm, return to center, and then parent from that point of view. Okay, so turn off the shark music. And connection principle number 2, chase the why. It's this idea of, you don't want to ask your kids, why are you doing it? However, you do want to understand, where are they coming from? What's the why? What's the why in this behavior? And so they use this phrase, chase the why, because when we ask children, why did you do this? Well, that's not going to give them to, sometimes they don't even know. They need our help reflecting on what's happening, what made them do this behavior. So we want to chase the why. Curiosity is the cornerstone of effective discipline. Before you ever respond to your child's behavior, especially when you don't like it, ask yourself a question. I wonder why my child did that. Let this lead you to other questions. What is she wanting here? Is she asking for something, trying to discover something? What is she communicating? Okay, so that's the chase the why. Right, like, why is there a mess here? Why is the kitchen, topsy-turvy? Why did my makeup get rummaged through. Okay, a lovely idea here, which is human behavior is purpose driven most of the time. We need to know what's behind it, what's causing it. If we focus only on our child's behavior, the external world, and neglect the reasons behind that behavior, her internal world, then we'll concentrate only on the symptoms, not the cause that's producing them. And if we consider only the symptoms, we'll have to keep treating those symptoms over and over again. And now, coming from a holistic perspective, right, I really like, like, what is the functional, what is the underneath, what is giving this person migraines, But if we put on our Sherlock Holmes hat and chase the why, curiously looking for the root cause behind the behavior, anyway, you get the point. Connection principle number 3 is think about the how. How we address our kids really makes an impact. There are multiple ways that we can, show up, right? Like, put your seatbelt on. Put your seatbelt on. Hey, can you get that seatbelt? Let's see who's faster, mommy or you. Multiple ways of how we approach. So he's going to go into our energy. How we approach is super, super important. Now, 3 principles, 3 connection principles, and then they go into 4 connection strategies. And their 4 connection strategies in this little diagram, super easy, is communicate comfort, validate, listen, and reflect. So this is where the how comes in. Connection strategy 1, communicate comfort. What does that mean? That means, how do you show up with them? Essentially, this is all about nonverbal communication. What is your body language communicating? What is your tone of voice communicating? What is your eyes, your mouth, your facial features? That nonverbal communication is so powerful in all human beings, okay? Adult, children, all of them, all of us. We communicate via nonverbal communication. When my husband is upset, I know based on the nonverbal communication. When our children are upset, we also know because of their nonverbal communication, right? So our nonverbal communication is also going to impact them. That's all it communicate comfort, right? Oh, okay. So I think I talked about this in the last video, but really it was in this chapter, this idea of going below their eye level, right? Eye level is great, but below eye level is even better. And if I don't know if I underlined, but, and if our verbal and not, okay, this is very important. This idea that our verbal and nonverbal communication, if they're not connected, if they're not congruent, right? If I'm saying, I love you, right? Well, what's going to happen? The other person is going to take the nonverbal communication, right? So it's better to actually what they say, it's better to stay silent if our nonverbal and our verbal aren't matching. And then later when we're, perhaps calm, we're able to then match our verbal with our nonverbal, then we can do that. Anyway, so lots of examples of essentially connecting with our kids, eye level, looking at them, soft gaze, soft, gentle. Strategy number 2, which I love and I always share with everyone, whether it's friends or clients. I mean, as a therapist, that's supposed to be my expertise. Inshallah, it is. Which is validate. So we want to validate. Can't say it enough. You can never over validate anyone, okay? And there is a professor, I think Dr. Alan Frazzetti would agree with me with this idea. You can never over validate, and you can always validate. I did one of his training with him, and he will absolutely say you can always validate. So now, validation can be tricky, and however, what is validation? It's super simple. It's telling, when we tell our kids how to, okay, what is invalidation? That's very important. One thing we do not want to do is we do not want to invalidate our kids. When we tell our kids how to feel and how not to feel, we invalidate their experiences. This is really, really bad. We do not want to do this, okay? And we don't want to inadvertently communicate that we don't want to interact with our kids when they have negative emotions, okay? So instead of saying comments like, what's the big deal about missing a play date? You want to validate. I understand that you're sad. You really wanted to go. This was really important for you. You were really, really excited to go, okay? So after acknowledging the feeling, the second part of validation is identifying with that emotion. For a child or an adult, it's extremely powerful to hear someone say, I get you, I understand, I see why you feel this way. This kind of empathy disarms us, it relaxes our rigidity, it soothes our chaos. See, the validation brings us back into the river of well-being. Even if an emotion seems ridiculous to you, don't forget that it's very real for your child. So you don't want to dismiss something that's important to her. Okay, connection strategy 3 is stop talking and listen. So this idea of talking too much, which I think I've been doing right now, is talking too much, not giving the summary that I wished I would have done in less than 5 minutes. So zip it and listen. Connection strategy number 4, reflect what you hear. Reflect back what you're hearing. I know, honey, I know you're really upset. You're just so angry, aren't you? And then this beautiful example at the end about it, just, I don't blame you for being so mad. I hate it when people tease me like that too. I know you love Jimmy and that you two were having so much fun together just a few minutes ago when you were playing with the wagon, but you're pretty mad at him right now because Jimmy, did something bad to him. Here's another thing that I underlined, super important, is that brain imaging studies show that the experience of physical pain and experience of relational pain, like rejection, look very similar in terms of location of brain activity. Oh my goodness. So there you go, chapter 4. Goodbye.